All right. Check, check, check. 1, 2. Got it. All right.
What's up, Ed?
Hey, is that Brian?
Nope, it's Merlin.
Merlin!
I'm
What's going on, my friend?
pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm rolling along, man.
Yeah,
One day after another.
I hear
How's life in the sales side of the world?
you. It's good, man. It's one of those. I've been telling people first couple of weeks. You're kind of like, oh God, like I need to
Yeah.
let's figure out a good schedule here. What works best for me? Most productive kind of thing. But after that initial shock, rolling along, man.
Cool, cool. Well, I know you're gonna just crush it, so it's gonna be fun to watch.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
All right, so what do we got? Spark 5, set goals that matter. All right, so
hmm
bust this
And
up.
then I was gonna say, do you want me to, because I'm covering the front right now. So did you want me to flip through the slides, or did you want to grab onto them and share your
Um,
screen?
yeah, if you don't mind me sharing, honestly, I've done this so much that I don't like. It's kind of easier if I just run my own PowerPoint.
Oh yeah, sure. Let me stop the share. All right, and there we go.
Hey, Aiko, good to have you on the call. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I miss. By the way, if you ever want to jump in on one of the group calls or whatever, you're always welcome to. You're part of the crew. So if you ever want to take part in the coaching stuff, just let me know.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Will do.
Okay, what we got here? Slideshow, play from the start. There we go. Hey, Bea, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
It's funny. This is the first time I see you without a mask on, so I get to now.
Oh,
see your
yeah, I
whole face.
know. I'm at home right now.
All good, all good. What's up, Eric? How you doing?
Ed, how are you?
So is there no chance of getting your buyer in to go see another property and making something else work, or?
No, it's done. She leaves at the end of the month to go work on a movie on the island,
Yeah.
and Denise explained to her. She talked to the lender about how tricky it would be getting signatures and stuff like that from the island with delays, and she still can't get the big windows corner apartment Linden out of her head. So she's not in love with anything else. So she's just going to take her time, which kind of sucks because that means I don't get paid.
Yeah.
But she offered to get me a gift for helping her, which I thought was nice.
That's cool. That was awful.
And it's I try not to like accept the gifts or anything like that. But since I also act, I'm like, well, if you have any casting director friends, I love to get in front of them, and just like, what, instead of taking the money, make the contact to make more money down the line. And then I kind of asked for a referral, but I didn't throw Denise under the bus, obviously. I feel like, I know you're friends with Denise, and if she's not available to help any of your referrals, I'd love to be able to help them.
There you go. Nice work. Awesome. So guys, we're gonna start promptly at 11:45. So just if you want to go do whatever you need to do or grab a snack or whatever, I just like everyone to get here early to make sure we're all, especially on our side on the instructor side of the system, making sure all of our tech issues are all worked out and we're all ready to go. We will start promptly at 11:45, so we still got like 10 more minutes. All right. man, with everything that happened with my son over the weekend, I haven't done my 4-on-1 for that. That's part of why I was saying that this morning in the call. I feel naked.
Right.
I can't believe it's the second day of the month and I don't have my 4-on-1 set for February yet. It's weird.
Oh.
I feel like uncomfortable. Like I don't know what my goals are and where I'm at.
And you're voted out of the island.
I know, man. I practice what I preach, man. Like you, at first you're like, you got a coach on you, do your 4-on-1, do your 4-on-1. And then after a while, if you don't do your 4-on-1, you start feeling like you have a third limb or like a third eye on your forehead or something. It just feels weird. You just feels uncomfortable.
Right. I converted to, I just got YouTube TV.
Uh-huh.
It's not so bad.
I saw so does that have, what does it have your major network channels?
Yeah, it's great. I still get like all the local CBS, NBC. I still get all those. And it's
And can you record them like on a DVR? Can you record stuff?
apparently I haven't figured it out yet because I just got it before the 9 a.m. meeting, but there's an unlimited cloud DVR
Through YouTube.
through YouTube, and it's like 85 channels.
Wow.
So I don't feel like I'm wasting money. Like I'm paying the same amount of money in the long run, but I have channels that I watch instead of 90% of the channels that I don't watch.
And
Go ahead.
do you miss out on any of the sports channels and stuff, right? Because you probably the Dodgers through Spectrum, so you're not getting...
With the package I got for YouTube, they have the MLB, and then network, and then I think there's like I could buy the Dodgers if I wanted.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to get the Marquee network, which is the Cubs network, which is almost impossible to find. But it's the only drawback is you can't watch and scroll through to see if there's anything else you want to watch.
Got it. You kind of have to know what you're watching.
Right.
You can't just flip through channels, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Hayden, they used to charge me $10.99 for regional sports channels because I had a certain package.
Yeah, they always just add extra fees, and it's always more than what they say.
Right.
It goes up every year, so it's good to cut the cord.
They told me, oh, the $10.99 for regional sports, and I'm like, that's great, but how can I get the Big Ten network and the ACC network and the Longhorn network, and I'm not close to any of those, but yeah, I can't get Marquee.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like,
I think they're going to transition because I think like Apple and Amazon and others networks were bidding on all those networks. So
yeah, I think YouTube, I think after this year, DirecTV doesn't have Sunday Ticket anymore, like exclusive to them.
Yeah.
So you can buy it for like YouTube and everything like that. It's not so bad. So far I got YouTube TV. I have Peacock and of course Netflix and Discovery Plus and HBO and Showtime. So
yeah, I have way too
for those of you guys just joining, we're going to start at 11:45, so we still got a little over 5 minutes to go. So grab a snack, do whatever you need to do, and then we'll start promptly at 11:45. I'm going to try to teach us standing up. I got my sit stand desk, and I haven't been using the stand part enough. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try it out. So we'll see how this rolls. And if not, I might have to switch back to sitting. We'll see. I know I love lead generating standing up. It's like, I don't know, it just feels weird to be sitting down while I'm making calls to my database and stuff.
when we do script practice, I always feel weird because I'm not walking around and I don't have a rhythm going.
Yeah.
I always like fumble over like the script and it sounds canned.
Yeah.
Instead of natural. But when I walk, it's better.
Yeah, I relate to that. And all the time when we're learning scripts, that they're all going to sound canned and weird at first, and you just gotta, Eric, it's you probably know better than me. It's like acting. Like first time you read the script out loud, it's a little choppy and canned and all that, and then you learn it, and then you learn it till the words come trippingly off the tongue, and then next thing you know, they don't even feel like somebody else's words; they feel like your words, right? And it's not even
Right.
like you're not even worried about the words; you're more worried about the other person and how those words are landing with the other person and the intention behind those words, right?
Right.
It's funny. There's so many things about acting that translate word for word into sales. We work with scripts. I mean, doing a listing presentation is like a one night stand performance. It's like a little one man show. It's seriously, there's a little bit of improv in there, but you'd be surprised how much of it is scripted. And honestly, the funniest thing is that the person you're working with has no idea that you're like working off a script. It feels to them like you're just having a conversation with them. And then at the end, you just naturally end up. I mean, when it's done right, that's what it feels like. That's the intention anyways.
It's funny how many parallels there are between the two businesses.
Mm-hmm. It's all a numbers game, right? You go on a bunch of auditions, you're not going to book all of them, but you just want to keep going, and you just keep putting your best foot forward. You keep trying, and some land, some don't. If you were like me, a whole lot don't.
Right. I feel that way. I get rejected a lot. They say it's not rejection, but it helps for sure. Like when someone tells me no and I'm making a call for real estate, it doesn't bother me as much.
And like we've been talking about, sometimes the times that I did my work and just like the days when you had three auditions lined up in a short period of time, the one that was in the middle that you were like, didn't care as much about, but you still did the work, you prepared accurately, but you just go in there, you do your work, and you're just like, I'm here, I do my work, and I'm off to the next one. Those are the ones who like you the most. It's the one that you're like, oh God, I hope I get this one.
Right.
That.
I try in both real estate and acting not to get overly excited for a certain one, because I know I auditioned for Nurse Ratched, which is Ryan Murphy, like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I love Ryan Murphy TV shows.
Yeah.
And I really wanted it, and it showed, and I did my work. Every people who were auditioning for the same role, like, oh wow, you nailed that. No one ever says that. And then I didn't book it. So I learned not to get my hopes up, because when I get my hopes up, I don't book it. But when I don't care, that's the one I book. I think it was
Yvette last week. And now this is just for me. I'm not suggesting you do this for anybody, but for me, I find when I have a listing presentation, I pull up like 5 minutes early to the neighborhood, drive around, look at the comps that are in the CMA to make sure like I know where they're at and everything. And usually I get to the house like a minute or two early, and I just kind of review mentally what I want to do. I close the door, and the last thing I say to myself as I'm walking up the door is like, I gotta be careful, my kid's home, but I say, dear God, let me do my best. And you know what? I do not give a blank if I get this or not. just let it roll. Just let's see what happens. I do not give an F if I get this. That's me. I'm not saying that works for everybody, but it just helps me to detach and know that my job is not to like try to get the listing. My job is to do my deal, present to them, show them what I do, show them what I offer, get to know them, tell them what they need, what I suggest they do to sell their house. And if it's a good fit, it's going to work out. And if it's not, it's not. So be it. Let the chips fall where they may. When I have that attitude is usually when I come out the best. All right, we still got a couple minutes. We're going to start promptly at 11:45. So welcome everybody. Welcome.
It's interesting. I watched a documentary the other night on Netflix on, I think it was Netflix, on the making of Schitt's Creek, the last season. And one of the actors, I forget which one, said the same thing, Eric. He said, like, when he goes in thinking, I don't care, that's when he books the job.
I think it's because you're more free.
Yeah.
in the process is
Yeah.
like you did your work, but you're not, lets you be more in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to jump off for 1 second. I'll be right back.
All good. All good. All right. So we'll get this party started here. I had to wait till 11:45. I don't want to jump the gun. Hey, Lance, welcome back. Because you know what? A good show starts on time and ends on time. That's what I was always taught. All righty. All right, it's 11:45, so we can officially begin. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Ignite. Today we are doing Spark session number 5, setting goals that matter. So let me open up my little PowerPoint here. Welcome back, everybody. We all know who each other is because we've been going through Ignite together. But you'll all have a chance to, oh, hold on a second here. I want to share my screen is what I want to do. We don't need to introduce ourselves because we're all going to get to know each other because we're all going to be contributing and chiming in, and that's how we'll get to know each other. All right, so today we're going to, focus on how to cultivate your leads into seller opportunities. That's not true. Wait, hold on, what's going on here? All right, what successful agents do every day? Here's the secret to being a successful real estate agent. There is no secret. Success leaves clues, so we know exactly what successful agents do every day because we've interviewed a lot of them and they've told us what they do. Every day, agents do 2 types of activities. They grow their business and they run their business. Each activity on this slide, and if not obvious, okay. The goal of our time here is to model what successful agents do every day and show you how to do it. Today, we're going to focus on lead generating for buyers and sellers, setting goals, and attending training and getting coaching. All right. All right. The learning module objective for today is to set a meaningful goal. We're going to complete a 4-in-1 with steps to move toward that goal. Today's going to be a fun day. Today we're going to cover setting goals, which is part of running your business. To do that, we're going to ask the big questions. Where do you want to go? What's your motivation? And last but certainly not least, how do you get there? So today's learning module is called Setting Goals That Matter. So what makes a goal matter? Anybody want to answer that? What makes a goal matter? If we're talking about setting a goal that matters, well, what's the difference between a goal that matters and one that doesn't?
I think it's really good if you have an emotional investment in it.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes all the sacrifices that you need to make worthwhile in the end.
Yeah, totally. And how about a goal that is tied to something that's going to have a real effect on your life, right? Like if you have a goal and you're like, yeah, I want to make $80,000 or whatever the goal is, right? But you haven't really thought about where does that $80,000 go? How is that going to impact your life? That's, let's face it, our job is challenging, right? So we want a goal that we can tap into that energy and it's going to help us show up day after day on that marathon pace like we were talking about on that morning call, right? Here's a good quote for you. I love this one. Oh, whoa, hey. There we go. Anybody want to read that? Somebody read that. Lance, read that. What do we got? Oh, Lance, you're muted, I think, or you're.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Who we are and where we want to go determine what we want to do, or what we do and what we accomplish. The one
thing. Who here has heard of The One Thing? Everybody? Not everybody? Most people? The One Thing is a book by Gary Keller from Keller Williams, right? And Jay Papasan about how to structure your life to achieve your goals. I highly recommend it. We're going to be talking about a few of the principles from The One Thing today, but you should definitely check it out for yourself. Thinking about this quote, why is it important to set goals? We talked a little about that before, but we talked about what makes goals matter, but why do we set goals? What is it about that?
It's like setting an intention. So it kind of gives you a visual and I don't know, something to shoot for, whether you fall short of it or not. It kind of imprints it in your brain that this is what you're shooting for and what you're going for.
I love that, right? It gives us motivation.
I think it's a roadmap, so you can check yourself.
I love that too, right? So it gives us a motivation to, why do we want to get to the top of the mountain? But not only that, but if we know what mountain we want to climb, well, now we can figure out, okay, we can work backwards from there. We can say, what are the steps? If we're going to climb, Mount Everest, we're going to say, okay, what are all the steps involved? Some benchmarks along the way. I love what Maury's saying. Great stuff, you guys. Let's see what Gary has to say. He says, it's important to set goals. I should do this in a Texas accent, but I don't have one. It's important to set goals because the opposite of this quote is also true. What you do and what you accomplish determines who you are and where you go. If your activities don't have a guiding goal, you'll likely be very busy and not have a lot to show for it. Is there a lot of hats that we wear in real estate? We talk about switching hats, right? Is there a lot of hats we wear in real estate? As a realtor, as an independent realtor? Oh my God, it's crazy. There's like an infinite number of things you can do throughout a given day. You can be an accountant at 8 o'clock in the morning. You can be a taxi driver at 3. And in between, you're an entertainer, and then you're a harsh negotiator after hours. I mean, it's crazy, right? All right, the mission of Keller Williams is to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth leaving. None of these things just happen. Setting goals that matter means doing work that matters. When our work matters, we tend to do more of it, and we do it well. Ooh, that's a good quote. I like that. All right, let's jump back in here. Everybody see that okay? Part of achieving goals is working hard. And I think we can all agree on that. If you don't put in the time and effort, you won't get very far, right? One thing very fair about real estate is, I don't know what career you guys had before this, but who your parents were or how much money you've got in the bank account. Like, you can cheat your way through a couple of the steps, but long-term, one thing I love about real estate sales is that it is very fair. The people who work hard and work smart, work principled, tend to go really far. People who take shortcuts and don't work very hard don't tend to sell a lot of real estate. And that is so true. And that's one thing I love about it. Okay, looking at this graph here, what else is important to setting and meeting goals? Anybody remember from the first chapter of MREA? Gary says to aim, not here, right? Aim what?
Well, if you aim higher,
Aim
you're
high.
bound to achieve, something close to it, even if it's not that high point. Getting a little under it is pretty damn good as well.
That's right. Thinking big. That's right. You don't get big outcomes from thinking small. When we talk about thinking here, we're talking about thinking big when setting goals and thinking big on how to reach those goals. You have to ask, what are you doing? How do you do it? Who are you doing it with? These answers can limit your outcome, or they can propel you forward, right? There's a whole book about that too by Grant Cardone, 10X. I know, Eric, you're a big fan of that. Me too. But we'll skip that for a moment. Let me go to this next slide here. The question you need to ask is, how big is your box, right? If you're not thinking big, you're creating an artificial ceiling of achievement. There are only so many hours in the day. There's only so much any one person can do with those hours. It's funny, today, this month, in coaching, we're going to be talking all about listings, the process of listing and listing we're going to, in all of our coaching calls, we're going to be going, it's February, it's Loving on Listings month in KW in the coaching world. So we're going to be talking all about that. And I know for myself that, so when I was new, and this is kind of skipping ahead to some stuff we're going to talk about in coaching, but when I was new, I remember that, if somebody had asked me, hey, do you want a listing? I would have said, well, yeah, absolutely. But it wasn't, so funny thing is that every time I had a listing appointment, I was super intimidated and I was scared because I didn't have a plan. I just kind of showed up and winged it. And it wasn't until I learned a system and I practiced it a lot. And all of a sudden I started feeling like if you start practicing a lot, it's like, talking about acting again. It's like an actor with a monologue. Like if you don't know the monologue really well, you're going to be all hesitant and whatever. But if you practice it and you know it really well, there comes a point when you know it so well that you're like, my God, I hope, for the love of God, I hope somebody asks me to say this monologue in the next month or I'm going to die because I have this beautiful thing that I've created here, this slice of life, and I want somebody to share with me. The same thing is true of the listing presentation. If you learn it, you practice it, you get really good at it. You can't wait for someone to ask you to do it because you feel like you've got this wonderful thing ready to go. And once I had that, it's funny how a lot more listing opportunities showed up. You get that? Like when I was ready for it, when my thinking was ready for it, all of a sudden the opportunity showed up. Before that,
was ready.
I was making the calls and everything, and I just wasn't getting. But when I had a listing presentation that was like a rock star presentation, I was ready to go at any moment. It's just funny how the opportunity showed up a lot more frequently. Anybody else want to share a moment they limited themselves or their business by thinking small? No? All right, we'll move on. Many new agents limit themselves right away. Maybe they don't call their sphere, right? Their sphere of influence, the people in their database, and just hope that business will come their way. Maybe they aren't systematic about lead generation. Maybe they refuse to learn scripts that would make their job easier. Most of those agents don't stay in the business because they treat it as most of those agents don't stay in the business because they treat it as a business, or they burn out because they aren't seeing a good return for their time and effort. All right, so we're going to do an activity that will help you envision your big life. And I just love this. This is my favorite part of all of Ignite. And I insist on teaching this every time. I always ask whoever's setting this all up, I make sure I teach this module. Okay, we're going to do an activity that will help you envision your big life. Once you have that vision in place, then you can set some meaningful goals that will bring you closer to that life. Once you have the goals, we can talk about how to reach them, but it all begins with your vision. Okay, so does everybody have the participant guide printed out? If not, we can wing it, but you're going to definitely need either the participant guide for this module, or you're going to need a piece of paper and a pen. Everybody got it? Okay, so if you're using the participant guide, you see it there. This is on page 3. If not, here's what I'd like you to do. Take your sheet of paper and I want you to draw a circle in the middle of it about the size of a Coke can. And then I want you to draw 5 circles around the middle circle, also about the size of a Coke can. So you have 1 circle in the middle, 5 circles around it, right? Everybody with me so far? Anybody not with me? And for those of you guys on the call, if you can turn on your, now I know some of you guys can't turn on your video, whatever, but if you can, it totally helps for us to get class participation. So if it's possible, that's awesome. And if not, I totally understand. All right, so for the circles around the outside, I want you to write a person or a cause that you care about. Let me give you some examples. Maybe you want to pay off a bunch of debt. Maybe you want to do something really charitable. There's a charity that you would love to write a $20,000 check to. Or maybe a $10,000 check to, maybe a $5,000 check. I don't know. It's your vision, not mine. Maybe you've got a family member you want to help. Maybe you want to buy a house. Maybe you want to go on a nice long vacation when you're what did we call it? The post CV, the PCV, your post-COVID vacation, the PCV. I forgot about that. I got to post that on Facebook. So maybe you've got a nice PCV picked out. Maybe you want to save up some money. Maybe you want to buy some investment real estate. Oh, there we go. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. I love that one. Little known fact, most real estate agents who have a long career will tell you at the end of their nice long career, that they made more money by investing real estate than they ever did by buying and selling, than helping people buy and sell homes. So there you go. Put that one in your little magic circle there. All right, everybody got 5 things they care about? Maybe you want to buy a new wardrobe. Maybe you want to buy a car. Maybe you just want to save up $50,000 and have it sitting in your bank account so that you have money ready to go at any moment in case you need it. So for, try to be a little, give it a sentence or two in each one of those little Coke cans there. For each one of those people or causes, what would you like to do for them? For example, maybe you want to be able to care for your parents as they age, send your kids to school without debt, pay for a vacation for you and a best friend. For a cause, perhaps you would like to be named supporter for your local animal shelter or serve on the board of a charity you care about. You can be one of the people you care about. Perhaps your big life includes prioritizing your health so you have more time and energy to give, or paying off your student loans. There are no wrong answers here. Now, for each one of those things, here's the next step. For each one of those circles around the outside, now the middle circle still remains blank for now. For each one of those circles around the outside, I want you to estimate how much each action would cost. There's probably a cost associated with that. If you want to buy a house, well, how much do you need to get that going? How much do you need for a down payment? You want to buy an investment property, take a guess at how much would it take for you to be able to invest in real estate? Whatever it is. Maybe you want to save up some cash to have it sitting on the sideline, ready to go for the next time your Reddit group suggests buying on something like a GameStop, right? Someone told me that silver is the next thing, right? You won't catch me, man. I won't invest in Bitcoin because God has made it very apparent to me. Now, I don't know. I don't talk to God very often, and God doesn't talk to me very often. But one thing that God told me very, very clearly was like, don't even think about it. You will lose. You will be the one that will lose a lot of money. I promise you. And so we're very, God and I are very clear on that. All right. Anyways, okay. In the center circle. Okay. So now we're moving on. The center circle. I want you to quantify, because what we're creating here is a vision for your big life, right? This is one way of doing it. Could you add a 6th circle on the outside? Yes, you can. Do you only have 4 and the 5th one really doesn't matter to you? Okay, that's fine. Whatever. It's just an exercise to get you to visualize your big life. Expand your thinking a little bit about what, it's not just about paying the bills. So in the circle, I want you to quantify, what is it going to take to fund this big life? How much would all of these things cost? Now, by the way, some of the parts of your big life will likely require time as well as money. Remind you guys, as business owners, you will need to budget time in terms of money as well. So what would you need to make to be able to spend more time doing the things you love? If your goal is, one of your goals, by the way, and they're not all financial, maybe your goal, right? Maybe your goal is to climb Mount Everest. That's going to take a whole lot of time, right? That might require like a whole 6-month process to make that thing. I don't know. I'm not a mountain climber, but I imagine that there's a lot of time. So you're going to need some money, to fund the whole adventure, but you're also going to need some money to fund your life while you're busy running on your adventure, right? So these circles around the outside represent your big life. The center circle is your goal. Now the goal in the middle, you want to add up all those numbers from the outside and add it to the middle. So take your time. We're gonna be here for a couple more minutes. I like spending a little time here. Does anybody want to share something that came out of doing this?
I'll share. One was financial security, just so I can live how I want and not have to worry about it.
Love that. Anybody else want to share anything? Ahas that came out of this?
A lot of things that I want to do, you know, a lot of people I want to help.
I love that, Lance. You want to give us an example of one if you feel comfortable? If not, totally cool.
Yeah, well, thinking about my parents, you know, they're getting older and I'm not sure, you know, what's going to happen in the future. So it'd be great to have some money on the side, you know, in case they need some extra assistance.
I love that. I don't think there's anything more noble than taking care of your parents, right? I mean, love that.
I have an aha.
Yeah, Eric.
Is that I want to be more like Maury. Instead of I want to be like Mike, I want to be like Maury.
I love it.
Be careful what you ask for.
I'll tell you what, you know, Maury is a force of nature. He came to this office not all that long ago, and you know, just planted his flag. And you know what I love about Maury is not only did he, you know, set an awesome pace for himself in his first year of real estate, but he included a lot of people in on the process and is very generous with his experience. So I love that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So did everybody add up the numbers on the outside and come up with a number on the inside?
Yes.
Now remember, think about this. So let's do this. Everyone, just rough guess. I don't need an exact number, but how much does it cost for you to tread water? For you to, not talking about the things on the outside circles, but just for you to fund, what does it cost for you to suck oxygen on this planet? Meaning for you to just pay your rent, pay your groceries. What is your cost of living right now? For most of you, it should be somewhere at least 5,000 a month, right? In LA, at least, probably, you know, many people it's more than that. If you have kids like me, it's a silly amount just to tread water.
I'd say about that too.
Right, so figure out that figure out that monthly cost, multiply it by 12, find out the annual cost, right? And then you add that to the magic, the number of all the things on the outside added together. That'll give you your subtotal. And then you multiply that by, somewhere between 1.3 and 1.4-ish, somewhere in there, at least 1.2, right? Because that's going to give you your pre-tax amount. And now at this point of the exercise, there's probably a lot of you who are just like, oh man, that number is like, it feels like some number that's anybody feeling like that? Anybody feeling like this number is ridiculous? That's like way crazy high. No one? I like that.
What did you say about pre-tax amount? You multiply by 1.2 to see, that would be kind of like an estimate.
Yeah, I imagine, Jenny, you're probably going to want to multiply it by 1.35 at least.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I do this exercise, my number is pretty damn big. There's a lot of zeros in that number. An intimidating amount of zeros. But that's okay. We want this goal, this life, this big life that we're identifying here, that we're writing down. This is possible for any one of you. Now, some of you, you know, occasionally I get people who are in coaching or whatever, and, you know, that's not their goal. Their goal is like, I want my goal, you know, and I have people who have told me, like, my goal is I want to work, you know, I want to work 30 hours a week, 9 months out of the year. And I want to make $100,000. But I don't care if I never make more than that. I'm totally fine with that. That's a totally, I'm not here to tell you that your goal needs to be big in that it needs to have a lot of zeros in it. That's not what I'm saying here. Your goal needs to be big in that because this person, you know, in fact, several people have said that to me over the years, and they're very specific. They're late in their careers. They don't need a ton of money. They're semi-retired. And what they want is a lot of time to spend with their grandkids and traveling and all that kind of stuff. More power to you. I love that. That is a really big goal. I love that. Totally, you know, totally realistic. For some of you guys who are younger, you guys probably want more zeros in it because you want to save up and save for some big goals and all that. But it's up to you to figure out, right? And I will tell you, you can get to pretty much, you know, if you're willing to work hard and smart, you can get to pretty much any, you know, within 4 to 5 years, if you work smart, you can get to pretty much any number. You can get some pretty huge numbers within 4 to 5 years by working 40, maybe 45 hours a week. Like the myth of like this real estate agent that works 80 hours a week is one that my goal in life as a coach is to crush that, because the agents I know who make the most amount of money don't work those crazy hours, and nor do I recommend it, nor would they. And I've known some pretty damn big agents who are making tons. So there you go. All right. Any ahas from this exercise? Was this good?
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on. So let's talk about, let's go back to here. Play current slide. All right. Let me share. What am I doing? You guys seeing the screen?
Mhm.
All right, cool. All right. So let's go to the next slide. Whoa, hey. Oh, wait, no. All right, here we go. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand is how your commission works. Many new agents get the check for their first closing. They pocket it all. It's an exciting amount of money, right? You get a $20,000 commission check. You're like, woo, I am going to party, and then get in trouble down the line. So let's talk about where the money goes and how much will actually be going towards your goal. These numbers are very general and are meant only as an example. Actual amounts will vary, especially if you're on a team. Okay, as we go through this exercise, know that these numbers are American numbers, and America is a big place, and we're on the far high end of the spectrum, right? So our numbers are generally much bigger deals, but we generally have much fewer of them because we have a lot more competition, because you only need to do a couple deals to have a great career in real estate in LA. All right, so click. So first, what am I doing here? All right. If you are on the seller side of the transaction, half of the commission amount goes to the buyer's agent. So when you sign a listing agreement with a client and you're like, that's going to be 5% to sell your $1 million home, which is $50,000, right off the bat, half of that is not going to be in your pocket. It's going to be in the buyer's agent's pocket. So once you've got about half, about a third of that goes to the market center to cover your company dollar, franchise, royalty, and fees, right? If you're in coaching now, in your first couple of deals, you have to pay more than that, but then you're at a 30 split, right, with the office. 30 split usually, anyways, another day. After you pay the market center, roughly another third goes back into your business. This covers marketing, operating expenses, signs, your car, your phone, anything else you need to conduct and grow your business. Finally, you get your share. Oops, hold on. You get your share with a caveat. Your take home includes your taxes. So taxes come out of here. Put money away for your taxes religiously. You don't want to have a year's worth of work wiped out because you failed to plan. Pretty brutal, right? Any ahas from all this?
Yeah, for taxes, I talked to my CPA, and he said to put back at least 25%. And that's just being cautious.
Yeah.
Probably won't be that much, but just to be on the safe side.
Because when we're new, we have a lot of expenses that are tax deductible. And so early on in your career, your number will probably be pretty small. Like my first handful of years, like I paid very little in taxes. Like it was not 25%, although it's great practice to start putting that away. But then down the road, yeah, it starts to add up really quickly. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, 25% isn't even covering it. And that comes before long. All right, so examples have been provided in red on this slide. Please update information to best reflect your market so that participants can set realistic, accurate goals. What do I have on here? Okay, cool. I updated this. I forgot I did this. Okay, cool. God, I'm so good. So the average sales price. So I updated this to reflect in your first year of real estate in our market center, your average price point over the last few years, if you're in your first year, is probably going to be about 900,000, maybe even actually a little bit less than that. The average price point in our market center, anybody know?
1.2.
Is it $1 million?
About 1.1. Split. You guys are split the difference between you guys. But the average price point in our market center is about 1.1 million, right? So, but if you're new, generally you're going to start off with smaller numbers your first year, and then your numbers will continue to grow from there. So I would start when you do your calculations, I would start with a number like 900,000. That's pretty good. And with 900,000, what's the average commission rate percentage in LA?
2.5%.
Yeah, 5% split two ways, 2.5, right? It's pretty average, right? So what's 2.5% of 900,000? Anybody got a calculator, or can you read right off the screen?
22,500.
Now I put 18,000 here. I put that because when you're new, it's not uncommon that you might have to chip in a little bit here and there to win over a buyer who you're competing with or whatever. But it's pretty safe to say your average commission is going to be about $18,000 per deal in LA in your first year of real estate, which is pretty sweet. Coming from a market where the average price point was much, much, much smaller than that, I will tell you that numbers like that are pretty awesome. You don't need to sell a whole lot of deals at that number to end up with a nice amount. Okay, so now we're here. So now we're going to figure out how much of your commission is going to the market center. Multiply your GCI by your market center's company dollar. So in our market center, we're capped at 29,000 to the market center. And then there's also a royalty that's paid to KWRI in Austin, Texas, because we got to make sure that we fund Gary Keller's adventures. So he gets $3,000. So total is $32,000 for our market center, right? So typical split in our office is you pay 30% and you keep paying 30% until that $32,000 is paid off. And then once you're done paying that, you get to keep $100, 100% for the rest of the year. Okay, so now we're going to put it all together. Now, for those of you guys in coaching, some of you guys are at a 50% split for your first handful of deals, but then you're going to end up at that 70-30 split because coaching comes out of that 30. Okay, so now say you want to earn $150,000. It's a really common goal. I coach a lot of people, and you would not believe how many people say $150,000. I would say it's more than half. So now we're just going to deduct that. So we've got the $150,000. We're going to subtract 32,000. Let me go here. Hold on. So A is your annual net income goal. How much money do you want to make this year before taxes and operating expenses? This is on your in your participant guide if you want to do it with your own numbers, but we're just going to do it here for 150. B is the number we came up with on the last slide. This is the maximum amount you can expect to pay to the market center, right? That's when you cap. C is your annual business expenses. This includes salaries, most lead generation, marketing expenses, education, etc. I put $48,000 here. I will tell you that's actually probably pretty high. Yeah. Most people spend less than that, but you can put $48,000 there and end up just fine. So D is the total GCI. gross commission income you would need to make to end up netting $150,000. Because remember, GCI is you take all the commission, you subtract the part, right? Because remember, we said the average, let me go back. Average commission, average commission in our market center for your first year, say $18,000, but not all of that is going in your pocket, right? Some of that's going to the market center. Some of that is going towards you paying your business expenses. So it's not like all of it you get to take home to fund your life. So we're saying if you're making 150, you can, if you spent $32,000 on the office and on your cap, and then your business expenses were 48,000, that means the total you need to make in total commission dollars to end up with 150 is $230,000, right? Everybody following that?
Yes.
Okay. So now if we're saying the average commission amount for each deal is $18,000, so then how many deals would you need to make to end up with $150,000?
Well,
12, right? Here it is. So 12 deals will end you up with $150,000. Now that's $150,000 net income, right? Or I'm sorry, gross income, gross pre-tax income. So taxes would be paid out of this $150,000. Now, some things to note, typically your cell phone comes out of here, your car expenses come out of here, and that includes maintenance and gas and everything else. If you have a home office, part of that can come out of here. Part of your rent or your mortgage payment can come out of here. Part of your utilities can come out of here. So a lot of stuff can come out of these expenses, right? Any ahas on that point?
it's all a big aha to me.
All right, all right. All right, so now we're going to talk about, do we want to do this? Let's just say that in Command, you can set your goals. There's a spot in Command. Command has goal setting and tracking built into the reports applet. For those of you guys who use Command, one of the really good things about it is you can build all this into Command. And if you keep track of everything in Command, it'll tell you how you're doing on your goals, how you're proceeding along. It's really cool. These goals are all based on the MREA economic model and utilize the contacts and opportunities applets in Command to track activities and production. So I'll skim over this really quickly. If you log into Command with your KW login, right, you click on the reports icon on the left-hand side of the screen. And at the top of the page, you click goals and then click goal settings at the top right of the page and click get started. There's a little wizard tool there that will walk you through everything you need to do to set your goals in Command. It's pretty cool. I do recommend you use it. I use it for myself. I think it's super cool. So good stuff. Okay, we're moving on. The point of our conversation is not to be discouraging. We're trying to equip you with the reality of how to succeed. No matter how big your goal, you can achieve it in the real estate business as long as you focus your time and efforts on the right business activities. And I know a lot of you guys, in your first 6 months of real estate, it's all about the money. How do I make more money? How much money do I have left? What's my burn rate? Totally understandable. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be like that. As you progress, you will start to realize that a far more precious commodity that you have very limited of in real estate and that everybody wants it is your time. Your time is super valuable, right? Everybody wants a piece of your time. And so that knowing how to spend your time is probably the biggest business decision that you will each make on a daily basis as you progress through your first year of real estate, first couple of years, right? All right, so we're going to talk about the 80-20 principle. In the 1940s, quality control manager Dr. Joseph M. Juran documented a life-changing universal principle that he called the vital few and the trivial many. The idea was that a relatively small percentage of your efforts lead to the vast majority of your results. He attributed some of his findings to the statistical work of the Italian economist. Anybody want to know his name? Anybody remember his name? Vilfredo Pareto, who had observed that 80% of the wealth in his country was owned by 20% of the population. As fate would have it, that broadly embraced principle came to be known not as Juran's law, but as Pareto's principle. These days, we simply call it the 80-20 principle or the 80-20 rule. The idea that 20% of your actions lead to 80% of your results may be one of the most powerful principles that you can apply to your life. It's about getting the most from your time and your and effort. It's about maximizing your results, and it's about having focus. Does anybody know what we mean by big rocks? It's funny, they used to tell this example that where this story comes from. Okay, we got a few minutes. I want to tell you this. They don't give the example here. So this is where the big rocks, this is where that story comes. There's a science teacher, and he has this big, the old big milk jugs. They held like 100 gallons, right? These big giant old, I don't know if you've ever seen them, the old metal milk jugs. And he rolls this milk jug out in front of his science class. And he takes these big rocks and he puts them in this big jar. Boom, boom, boom. And finally the jar fills up with these big giant rocks. And the thing's filled up and you can see the rock peeking over the top. And he tells the class, what do you think? Is the jar full? And the class says, yes, of course, full. Right? And he rolls out this other cart of little rocks. And he pours in this box of little rocks, and the little rocks go like Plinko. If you guys remember that, they go down to the bottom in between all the big rocks, and eventually all the little rocks fill up to the top too. And he says, class, what do you think? Is it full? Class says, well, I don't know. It's getting mighty suspicious now, right? And he goes, no, it's not full. And he comes back with even smaller little tiny pebbles, and they all fall in. And then he comes back, he says, the class full. And they're of course not, right? Because they just know the teacher's making a point here. And then he rolls out this big thing of sand and he pours all the sand in. And finally at the end, he goes, what do you think? Is it full? And they say, maybe. And he goes, no. And he goes back and he rolls out this thing of water and he pours the water in there. And he goes, what do you think? Is it full now? And they say, maybe. And then he goes, no. And he pours a bunch of salt and the salt dissolves into the water and it disappears too. What's the point? Why am I saying all this? What's the point? Why do we say take care of your big rocks first? You ever thought if that experiment had gone backwards, if he had poured the sand in first, what would have happened? Would all those rocks have
never
still
get
filled?
the rocks in, never get the big rocks in.
You never would have gotten those big rocks in. So what does this have to do with real estate?
There's always more to do and more to mind. Is that what it's?
You're on the right track, but not quite.
More to grow?
So if your day is a jar, you want to put your big rocks in first. If you put your little rocks, sand, gravel, etc., in first, you won't have room for the big rocks.
So is that the leads, the big rocks?
So your big rocks are the
20%.
most important activities of your day and those which cannot be skipped. Your little rocks are distractions or smaller tasks that may need to be done, but aren't going to get you materially closer to your goal. Which brings us to, what is the one thing you can do right now that would make everything else easier or unnecessary? So another way to identify your 20% is to ask this question. It's fundamental basis of that book, The One Thing, but we want to ask this to ourselves every day. So what is our one thing as real estate agents? What are our big rocks? What's the most important thing? There's one thing that trumps everything else we do. Lead generation. Oh my God, more, yes. Lead generate for buyers and for sellers. No matter what you do every day for the rest of your life, as long as you consider yourself a real estate agent, I'm not kidding when I say this. If you did not lead generate that day, in some sense of the word, you consider your day not being fulfilled. But if you lead generated and the rest of your day was a complete disaster, you consider that day a success. I promise you, if the one habit, if you lead generate on a daily basis, no matter what else, no matter how bad your listing presentation is, or how much your buyer consultation is just a complete waste, was never thought out and you just wing it every time. If nothing else will so much determine how much money you make 5 years from now as whether or not you develop the habit of lead generation on a daily basis. Some days you're going to have crazy stuff going on. You're going to have like 3 deals and clients who want you to show them property every hour of the day. But if you lead generate, that day's a success. If you didn't lead generate, you may have, in the grand scheme of things, you probably should have planned things differently, if at all possible. Does that make sense? That's a crazy one to get your mind around, but that is so true. It's all about lead generation on a daily basis. So it's hard to do when you're new because you're not used to it, but it's even harder when you've been around for 3 or 4 years, because then you start getting busy. And then the little sirens call out to you from saying, oh, you don't need to lead generate. You need to go on this, there's a home inspection that needs you to be there all day long. You shouldn't lead generate today. You need to write out a contract or whatever. And if you can hold on and lead generate through all of it, all the rest you can figure it out. But every one of us should be lead generating 2 or 3 hours a day, like your life depends on it, because your income certainly does. All right. We're going to skip. All right. So we'll jump into here really quick. Let's do this. Okay. This here up on the screen, this is called a 411. It's called a 411 because, whoa, hey. Hold on. It's funny, when I run my own PowerPoint, it's so easy to jump around accidentally. They call it a 411 because, as you see, there are 4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year, all on one sheet of paper. There are many, many templates for 411s. If you guys are in coaching, I have like 4 of them that you can choose from. But this is one way that we can help plan out what our goals are and all that kind of stuff. So it's based on the principle that, how do we eat an elephant? Anybody remember? How do you eat an elephant?
One piece at a time.
With a fork and a knife, but yes, one bite at a time, sure. But yeah, one bite at a time, right? Because an elephant is awfully big. So if you have a goal of $150,000, now we're going to skip through this, but let's just say based on that, I know that for me to do $150,000, I'm going to need to go on 48 appointments. Fun for another day. That's in the economic model. But let's say I know I need to go on 48 appointments. Well, now I probably want to keep track of those, right? Because if I know my goal is $150,000 and I know I need to do 48 appointments throughout the year, well, what might we do? What can we do with that goal to make it a little more attainable and digestible?
Break it down by the month, by the week.
Yeah, break it down by the month, right? So if I want to do 48 for the year, what's that for the month? Per month. 48 divided by 12, anybody?
4,000.
There you go. What? 4,000? Wait, just 4, right? Okay, I know you meant just 4. Okay. So we want to do four appointments a month. And then I can say, hey, I'm just skipping all over the place. If I want to do 4 appointments per month, maybe I'll set a goal of 1 appointment per week. Now, you're probably thinking, well, great. How is that going to help any? Because here's I want to explain this because no one ever does. And I feel like this is the key to a 4-in-1 that most people miss. The 4-in-1 is not a to-do list. It's not like, make sure to call Fred, return the call to this client. It's not a to-do list. It's key performance indicators, metrics that you're going to be measuring throughout the year that you want to measure to see how you're doing. They are the gauges of they're the speedometer, the tachometer, all the gauges of your race car, right? So you want to know how you're doing. Are you on track? Are you not on track? And this is why this is so important. Say my goal is to do 48 transactions, right? And through some calculations, I have calculated that if I do, I'm going to say 5 contacts per day to my database, and I do 1 postcard to my database, and 1 email newsletter a month, and 1 social media post per day, I feel like that should take care of it. By my calculations, that should do it, right? So on my monthly goal, I've got, okay, I'm going to do 4 appointments, and I'm going to do, whatever 5 times, however many business days, 20 days, right? So that's about 100. I'm going to make 100 contacts for the month, and 1 social media, post per day. That's 20, because 20 business days in a month, and whatever. I put all that as my month goals. And then in my week goals, I've got all that broken down by week, right? So 5 contacts a day is 25 contacts for the week, right? So check this out. Let's say I do my 25 contacts for the week. I do my social media posts. I do everything as planned, but I don't get the appointment. So now we fill these 4-in-1s out 1 week at a time. You don't fill in the whole year. You fill in 1 week at a time. And at the end of that week, you figure out what you got done, and then you move on to the next week. So the next week, I'm like, okay, I didn't get my appointment down. What am I going to do here? What are my options? Anybody? What are some options? I know
Make it up the following week.
I can make it up the following week. I don't want to let go of my goal for the year. I want that 150K. So
you tweak what you did to get there. Your monthly.
So I can say, okay, so next week, damn it, I'm gonna somewhere in the next 3 weeks, I'm gonna make it up, and I'm gonna find that extra appointment that I missed out on last week, right? So maybe I adjust my daily activities so I can work a little harder to try to make it up. Or, say it's June, and I've been doing this every week. I update it. So every week you would update this, and at the end of the week, last week of the month, you do a whole fresh one for the next month. So for those who have a 4-in-1, you probably have a new one that you're doing for February, right? So it's a whole new month. The annual goals hopefully remain the same. But when you get to June and you're like, oh man, I am so far behind schedule. Like, okay, this is starting to feel ridiculous. My annual goal is like a figment of like, this is meaningless because I'm not on track, right? Which, by the way, that could be that you're ahead of schedule or behind schedule. It can go both ways. And I've been on both sides of that coin in June. But you can adjust your goals, right? So that's another option. Be like, you know what? I love the work that I'm doing. I'm making great progress, but maybe 150 is not going to happen this year. I'm going to change it to 125 because that I can do. And I still want to keep that as a goal. Totally up to you. You're the CEO. You make these business decisions, right? The point of all of this is that doing this on a weekly basis forces you as the CEO to keep track of what your numbers are, right? And it's not about, did I call Frank or did I return it's not a to-do list. You're monitoring your metrics so you know how your business is doing so that you can adjust and tweak the levers and adjust things to make these business decisions. Maybe you make up for it. Maybe you're like, stuff happens, man. It's busy. We have a goal, we come up with a goal for our big life that informs our plan for what we want to do this year, but life happens. Maybe you got into a car accident and you were in a coma and you come out 2 months later and you're like, suddenly you're back to normal, but you're like, oh, I'm 4 months behind schedule. I'm certainly going to need to readjust, right? It's life. These things happen, right? Or maybe you tapped into like a resource, like you found a referral source who's just like the well that just keeps on giving, and you've got like 8 referrals and you are like blowing away your numbers. You're going to want to adjust that too, right? You're like, okay, I am far ahead of schedule. What can I do to leverage this to keep it going? Maybe I want to hire an assistant. Maybe I want to pour some money into marketing to let everybody know how good I'm doing so that hopefully this becomes self-sustaining when this particular vein runs out, right? Do you get what I'm saying here? That's what the 4-in-1 is all about. It helps us know what's going on in our business to tweak our numbers. All right, thanks for bearing with me on my little soliloquy there. What do we got? Ahas from all that.
That was really good, Ed. I like the filling it out weekly, checking yourself weekly, and maybe realizing, gee, I got to do 5 more calls next week because I didn't hit my goal. And when you said, I'm the CEO, I make the business decisions, I think that's a good way to look at it. I think it's human nature to get so caught up in the doing of it that sometimes you have to step back and be objective and look at your business. So those
yeah,
are
most agents don't know what they're doing. Now, when they don't know what they're doing. I don't mean they don't know what they're doing. I mean, they don't know what they've done. They're not aware of how, like, they don't keep track of their metrics. So they don't know, yeah, I had a good year, but you go back and you think, what did I do? Well, I don't know. I kept calling people and I kept dialing. And so sales, all of sales, whether you're selling widgets or whatever, selling real estate or cars on a car lot, it's all numbers. And we want to know our numbers as best we can so that as we have success, we know what it took to get there so that we can repeat it and do it again and be consistent and have some predictability in our business, as well as it'll help you know what's working and what isn't. If 5 calls a day is not doing it, okay, maybe, or you're going to learn your conversion rates, right? And maybe you're like, oh man, my listing appointments, I crush them. I am gold at my listing appointments. My buyer appointments though, man, I'm only converting 25%. That's awful. I better take a look at that. Now you wouldn't know that if you didn't track your numbers, right? So that's going to help you identify all these things come from knowing all your numbers. All right, there you go. All right, where are we at here? Let's see. Let me go back to this. Okay, here's the reality. The day-to-day life of successful agents is very repetitive. They know that their routine produces the results they need to live the life they want. Often that's enough to make them love the grind. There are many of you in this virtual Zoom room who, once you start seeing the work pay off, you're going to love the grind too. You will enjoy honing your systems and skills to compete at the highest level. I know I was like that. Like when it started to pay off, I was like, oh my God, I am so addicted to the numbers of it all. And when you start to crush it, like you love filling out your 4-in-1 because you're just like, it's a recipe for success. I mean, it's just awesome. All right. There are others of you in this room who will never love the grind, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you're doomed to fail. Even those of you who find you love it will have days when you need more of a push to motivate yourself. I want to give you something for those times. I'm going to ask you to do something that may feel silly at first, but is a crucial part of building careers worth having, businesses worth owning, and lives worth living. Okay, turn to page 8 in your participant guide. Everybody have one? Know what I'm talking about? All right, we're going to create for ourselves a little ritual. Think back to your big life. Remember early on in this call, we talked about our big life and the goals that you set for yourself. I want you to think about one of those people or causes that you named as something you care deeply about. Everybody have something like that in mind? Everybody wave your hand if you got something. All right, awesome, you guys. I want you to use that person or thing you care about to create an affirmation. You're going to say the affirmation aloud whenever you begin a new task. The key to creating a powerful affirmation is to be specific. Tie the activity you're doing to the greater goal and remind yourself why your work matters. So here's an example, okay? Let's say part of your big life is to ensure your mom is well cared for as she ages. And let's say that one way you want to do that is to help her pay off her house. I want you to write it. Well, in that case, you would write an affirmation that you will say out loud before every call that you make as you lead generate. For instance, you could say, so I am making this call here because I'm going to provide for my mom by paying off her house because she provided for me and I want to show her I appreciate her. Or let's say you want to support a charity. You could say, I am making this call to support the Ronald McDonald House by paying for families to stay there because I want to reduce the suffering of families with sick children. Do you guys feel the difference between making calls for 3 hours a day because you have to, and the difference between making calls for 3 hours a day because you want to take something off the plate of a family dealing with a catastrophic illness? You guys get that?
Yep.
For sure, right? Or because you want your mother to feel safe and loved. How differently would that call go if you had something like that? Or how differently will your business look? I promise you guys, there's going to be days when the phone is going to be your enemy and it's going to look like an 800-pound gorilla, and you're like picking it up and making calls is going to seem really hard, right? So we want to kind of remind ourselves like the good that comes out of this stuff. So I encourage you to create an affirmation like that. Anybody have one that they want to share? Nobody? All right. But I encourage you to find one. Find an account. I used to be a big skeptic of affirmations and all that kind of hokey pokey stuff, right? I was just kind of like, whatever, you know, I just was. I mean, I'd say that out loud, but in my head, I was always like, I just want to sell real estate. Can we cut the kumbaya shit for, you know, seriously, like, where do we talk about the scripts and where to call? Like, that's what I want to do. But I promise you, like, over time, I've been doing this for 12 years now. And over time, I am more and more a huge fan of the tips and tools we use to keep this part in line. All right, so now we're wrapping up the day. So it is time. Where are we at? There we go. Here we go. The goal of our time together is to help you think, feel, act, and use what you've learned to ignite your passion and help you achieve your big why. All right. Does anybody have an example? Anybody have an aha from today? Hold on, where am I at here? Anybody have an aha from today about how something we learned has changed their thinking? Oh, Lance, you're on mute.
The importance of setting goals and keeping track of your daily events and making sure that you do everything that you need to do.
I love that. Anybody have an example of something that we talked about today that made them feel something differently? Oh no, we're talking about feelings? This is a business class. What the hell are we talking about feelings for? Now, did something that we shared make you feel something differently? No one felt anything about all the charities and stuff you're going to use your money for? No, we have a bunch of cold, crabby people on this call. Is that what I'm hearing? No. Someone felt something. I know it.
Yeah, it kind of felt overwhelming at first, to kind of look at all the figures, like, oh my God, this is what I really need to make, in order for my life to be, what I want it to be. But then also it's like, okay, it can be broken down in a way that you can look at it and say, okay, this is what I need to do today or tomorrow. So it's not just some figure that's daunting, but you know how to get there.
Love that. Well said, Lance. That's awesome. And yeah, it can feel really intimidating at first. And I'll tell you guys honestly, the hardest part that I remember in real estate was not like first coming in the door. It was like 6 months in, 9 months in, when I had really, because at first I didn't really care, man. When I joined real estate at first, I was kind of like very loose about it. It was just like, whatever, I'm sure I'll figure this out and start making some money. And then I wasn't making money. And then I had to like start really working at it hard. And then I started working really hard and I still wasn't making money for a while because it takes a while for all this stuff to happen. We're creating businesses here, and businesses, as much as we think of businesses being nimble and they move on a dime, it takes a while to build a business. It just does. It moves like a cruise ship, right? It takes a while to get going. And then once it gets going, it's going good, right? And I remember the hardest part being when like when I was someone in like Eric Bailey's shoes or Jenny's shoes, like I'd been around for a while, long enough to do a whole hell of a lot of work, but I still didn't have the money that any other job would have paid out by then, right? It's really frustrating when you're like, God damn, like if I was in any other career, I would, I'd be getting a promotion right about now. And instead I'm like still scraping the bottom of the barrel. That it can feel like that in real estate sometimes. So for those of you guys who are in those shoes, like hang in there, because I promise you it grows exponentially. And the hardest part is those first handful of deals. There's a saying in real estate, the first handful of getting from 0 to 3 deals is as hard as it is from getting from 3 to 10. Getting from 3 to 10 is as hard as it is from going 10 to 20. And I can promise you that from experience. That's what it felt like for me. And getting to 20 is about the same hard as it is getting to 40. Like it's not that much hard. Like the hard part is getting off the starting line. It grows exponentially. So hang in there. Anybody have any ahas about actions you will take going forward?
I think what I've learned about the 411 is that it is kind of like a process. So me procrastinating and not doing it, I won't be able to know what I need to improve on and what I need to change, because I won't be, writing it down and seeing the actual numbers from week to week.
I love a great insight. I love that too. And yeah, I remember starting off and I just felt like, man, why do I have to fill out my coach had me fill out this stupid sheet that we had to like fax, or scan it and email it to him. And it was like this handwritten sheet. And I just remember like always feeling like, God, why do I, every time like before our coaching call, I just feel like, I got to fill out my stupid sheet. But
What's up?
Over time, you start to really, see the value in it. And now it's like, if I don't put tick marks when I'm making a call, like it feels like the call actually didn't have, like tree falls in the wood and someone doesn't record it down with a tick mark on a sheet. Did it really fall? It's kind of like what it feels like to me. So good stuff. And lastly, is there any tools or systems or models that you will definitely use? Anything? Any tools, systems? 4-in-1. Jenny just mentioned that.
Yeah, I can jump in really quick. Sorry, I'm like a million things
I'll
at
get
once
Marill.
here at the office. But yeah, I mean, definitely the 411. And just to kind of backtrack, I was, listening to you guys in the back of my head while I was doing this team meeting here. But one thing, just, from the brokerage perspective is we all like, just like you were saying about the cruise ship, right? One thing that I always tell people is like, it's like pushing a train, or like if you've ever seen like those like World's Strongest Men, like on ESPN, like when they're pulling like that, hey, they have to pull this like little, like, like single engine Cessna by themselves, right? Like the hardest part that they have is always kind of like, right at the beginning. And then like suddenly when it starts going, you're like, oh my gosh, it looks so easy for them, but anyway, yeah, I mean, for me, it's definitely been for one, like using the 401 for accountability, and for two, staying consistent with it. Because, even if you like, once you get that first check, right, that doesn't necessarily mean that exactly what you're doing is like the formula, right? It's like constant like tweaking and figuring and everything. And, it's one of those that's like, it's always going to be exciting and it's always going to be scary, no matter like how good you are or how long you've been in it, because it's always something new, and even for me, where I've worked on the brokerage for such a long time and I've seen all these deals, and then now doing it on my own, it's like, it's a whole different animal. So
I love that. Yeah. And it's funny too, like you build you build your business like one little habit at a time. Like first you're going to learn like, okay, I need to lead generate for 2 to 3 hours a day. Let me, if you can get your database something like being in tune and you're doing something like a 36 touch, you get that going. That's probably the first thing I would do if I were in your shoes. Organize your database and get a 36 touch going. If you can do that in your first couple months, that you're doing great. Don't worry about everything else. I know there's a ton of other stuff. I mean, I shouldn't say don't worry about other stuff, but make that your number one priority. Build a database, feed it every day, communicate with it in a systematic way, service every lead that comes your way. 4 laws of lead generation. But do that part first, and then you start like layering other things on top of it. Okay, now I'm going to learn how to call expireds, or now I'm going to add a geographic farm. And you know what? This quarter I'm going to take on accounting. Like, at first you probably just do your books like a mess because everybody does it first. And then you're like, okay, I think I should get a separate checking account for my business. And now I'm going to start organizing it and use QuickBooks, right? Now it's like, okay, I'm going to hire an assistant. You start like layering these things. I'm going to redo my branding, all these things on top of each other. But that's kind of how it works, is just like one block at a time. And as you go, the business starts growing and growing. And it's a beautiful, fun process if you let yourself enjoy it. And I know it can be super stressful because, at first it's all about when is my check coming in. And I get that. Believe me, I get that. But let's get you past that so you can enjoy some of the other parts of it, the more nuanced parts that are really fun about growing a business. Any last comments before we wrap it up? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Well, cool. I will take that to mean as it was an awesome class, and there's nothing to comment because it was all so perfectly described that the information just like you soaked it up like a sponge, and there's no questions whatsoever.
I'm speechless, Ed.
Yeah, Zoom tends to do that now. Hopefully, and the good thing is that this is recorded. If you ever want to go back and try to figure out what the hell I was referring to, and there's also the downloadable course material so that you can read it and understand what Gary meant, which is probably a lot better than how I hacked away at it. But great to see you guys. Some of you guys I will see this afternoon, and for the rest of you guys, have a wonderful time. Always great to see you in Ignite, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, bye everybody. Have a good rest of your day.